why challenge grade? Why not premier grade? Why not other decoys? Well, I have to say that both the challenge grade and the premier grade are wonderful working decoys, and they work for the ducks as well. And I suppose if I'd been hunting these decoys, or hunting these ducks, I should say, over mason decoys, I might have preferred premier grade. But as a collector, I really prefer more the natural look of the challenge grade with the rounded bottoms, kind of a more lifelike shape, if you will. But even better, there are challenge grade decoys available with premier features. There are challenge grade decoys that have hollow bodies and premier grade paint. So there you've got the best of both worlds. We have a few of those. They're not easy to find. But, just a preference for the look, I guess, of challenge grade. The premier and the challenge are both beautiful. The factory made and the handmade are both beautiful. But I've had a preference for the handmade decoys because as a collector, I've always gravitated, whether it's decoys or other kinds of folk, I've always gravitated toward the earlier and more rare. Each handmade decoy is different, and they all have kind of their own character. Handmade decoys were designed, I think, with the bird in mind, whereas the factory-made decoys had the limitation of having to be designed for an offset lathe. For me, the handmade decoys, and that would include both the earlier duck and goose decoys and pretty much all, I think, of the larger shorebirds, and in fact the early split-tail shorebirds. So, in fact, a large part of my collection, maybe 3/4, are probably handmade as opposed to factory-made. The Mason story is usually focused on the fact that they're factory-made decoys. And in fact, the bulk of Masons are factory-made decoys. The Mason story to me is really more about William J. Mason, the carver, than it is about the Mason decoy factory. What most collectors and dealers have missed is the fact that William J. Mason spent 14 of his 17 years carving and painting his decoys by hand. Instead, what he is known for, of course, are the factory-made decoys that were made on an offset lathe in just the last 3 years of his time as a decoy maker. In his day, he was known as every bit a good carver as an Elmer Kroll or Joe Lincoln. Some thought better, and yet that's not what he's known for today. Recognizing that, I've really focused more on these earlier and handmade decoys, again because they're rare, and those are the ones I'm inclined to seek out as a collector. So they're harder to find. There are fewer of them. Of course, making them one at a time by hand took a lot longer. Supposedly in the early going, he was making them mostly for his friends who hunted with him. But I think there are a lot of the decoys that I have were probably made by William J. Mason himself. And again, as I say, I think of him in the same class as a Kroll or Lincoln or Schmidt or any number of these famous carvers. To me, these are pretty unique decoys.